What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the MCU Reviewed. We're back with our first regular episode. So we're talking about the MCU movies as opposed to the Disney Plus series. Feels so good to be back. Of course, it's been a long time coming. You may have seen some of our stuff online, whether it's the latest episodes or our funny little trailer that we had. But we've recast Rashawn, so we've had some changes here. But welcome back to the MCU Reviewed, sponsored by Fantastic. I'm Josiah Leroy. With me, Scott Lang's pro skater. Look at that shirt. My good friend, John Fick. John, what's going on, man?
Man, I am so excited to be back doing this show right now. I know we had a couple of little interstitial episodes. We talked about WandaVision. We talked about Falcon and Winter Soldier. That was fun. But we haven't done an episode like this where we sit down, talk about a film, we rank these things. We haven't done this since August of 2020. So we had a little hiatus there. We stopped like almost exactly, actually, because of the fact that Black Widow's coming out, we are exactly halfway through the MCU now because we're throwing Black Widow there. That's going to be number 24. This is film 12. So we're at the halfway mark, and this is the end of phase 3. So this is a fun time to get back into it. But man, I'm pumped to be talking about these films again.
Felt so good to watch an MCU movie last night with the purpose of kind of paying attention and thinking about what we want to talk about during this episode, how we want to rank it, as we'll get to at the very end. That's always a fun thing. More on rankings in a second. Joining us, he joined us for the WandaVision episode that we did a few months back now. JT, welcome to the show. How are you enjoying the Bad Batch?
I'm loving it. So I'm a big Clone Wars, Rebels fan as well. So just to have some references to that, and Bad Batch is my thing. I'm loving it. It feels like a little mini animated movie to me, and I'm just we're all Star Wars fans here too, so it's awesome. Just again back to like just having Marvel content when it comes to WandaVision or Falcon and Winter, like just to have any Star Wars content right now is just as good. So I'm just loving it, man. Right away.
Great time to be alive.
That first episode was wonderful. I love that it was a 70-minute episode. What a great time period, post right after the Clone Wars to see. We haven't seen a lot of this, how the Empire really transitions there from the Republic, especially when it comes to the clone troopers that become stormtroopers and so on and so forth. So definitely enjoying myself so far as well. I didn't know that I wanted this series because I never got excited for it until I watched the first episode, and here we are.
Yeah, I mean, if they go off the books and comics, I'm hoping we see some rebellion of the Kaminoans and a couple other things. So for me, I'm excited for Kenobi coming out. Like, I think there's so much in that time frame that we missed. Sure. And we're gonna see it live, or as live as it can be on Disney Plus. So
cannot wait. We'll get into some of the business of the show. First of all, some serious business. The show is presented by Fantastic. Their division of 26 Shirts. If you don't know, 26 Shirts is a company dedicated to helping out communities, individuals, charities, you name it. They have a new beneficiary every time that they have a shirt sale. So 26 times a year, or 26 shirts, they will put out a brand new geeky-themed or sports-themed t-shirt. You can order it right at 26shirts.com. And a good chunk of every one of those sales goes to a beneficiary, such, like I mentioned, a family in need, an individual in need, or a charity. Typically, Del Reed, who's the co-founder of 26 Shirts, is on the show with us. Unfortunately, couldn't be with us tonight, but we hope to have him back for another episode shortly. But again, that's 26shirts.com. You can also check out 26shirts.com/fantastic. So we should probably bring up, that was serious business, some funny business here. Speaking of the rankings, we kind of made a boo-boo.
A little bit.
We tried to bring JT into the rankings in a way that we thought was a little bit fair and fun because Rashawn had the previous votes, right? So we didn't want to just have JT take over. We wanted a little bit more power there. It helps if you have an accurate ranking list to go off of. For whatever reason, John and I, way over our heads, totally forgot that we were kind of missing some stuff there. John, why don't you give a quick spiel on what we did, because we took this to Twitter and we had a fan vote. If you voted, I'm sorry, thank you.
So basically, when we brought John on, we said, all right, cool. We're going to give you a shot to mess with the list right now because you haven't been on these episodes. So what would you want to change if you could? And he wanted to get Winter Soldier over it would have been Avengers, right? That's what you wanted, John. You wanted to have Winter Soldier hop over Avengers, and those two were touching, so that would have made sense. Well, Josiah and I had the wrong list, and we forgot that we had already watched Age of Ultron, and we had ranked Age of Ultron above Winter Soldier and right below Avengers. So that list didn't make sense anymore. So we just had the wrong list up. So John doesn't want to redo that. He doesn't want to fight again because he'd have to try to get Winter Soldier to hop 2 spots now. So he wants to save those snaps. We're not going to go too crazy. We're just going to revert back to the ranking that it should be. I mean, I'm going to pull it up right now. This will be a good refresher as well because we haven't visited the show, like I said, since August of 2020. So we're here. We're halfway through. Let's see where we are with the rankings. And we're all going to still have our snaps. So we all still are going to have all 3 of our snaps. John gets that snap back because we messed that up. So
yes,
rankings are up right now. Go ahead.
What did Rashawn try to change?
He tried to get Iron Man 2 over 3. Something terrible. What a waste of a snap is what it was.
Like, if you, like a lot of people think Iron Man 3 and 2, I guess, respectively, are not particularly great entries or are even bad, why would you care which order they're in? That's my thinking. Rashawn, we love you, man.
Like,
Let's
just leave them bunched.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we know Rashawn's going to be watching or listening to this.
For sure. And that's part of the reason we wanted to give John the snap, because, like, man, not only did Rashawn use a snap, he kind of wasted one. No offense, my friend, but, like, well, you know. And he did lose, too. We put up that poll, and nobody agreed with him, so everything just stayed. So
and that is why he left the show, and now he's in L.A., and he's just doing his thing.
Exactly.
Rashawn, we miss you, man, but that was a gift. Thank you.
Exactly. All right, so I have the rankings up. These are the rankings from right after we finished Avengers: Age of Ultron, which is the film right before that. So nothing's been tampered with. Nothing's been snapped away. These are the official rankings that we've come up with. So number 1, we have Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 2, we have the Avengers. Number 3, we have Avengers: Age of Ultron. Number 4, we have Captain America: Winter Soldier. Number 5, Iron Man. Number 6, Iron Man 3. Number 7, Iron Man 2. Number 8, Captain America: The First Avenger. Number 9, Thor. Number 10, Thor: Dark World. I'm missing the Incredible Hulk. I just forgot to write it in here. That's it. So the Incredible Hulk is 11. I'll fix that when we throw Ant-Man in here. So that's the rankings. And this number 11 spot is missing the I started panicking. Like, wait a minute. Why is there only 10 here? There should be 11. And luckily, it's a movie that barely matters because it's going to finish up at 24.
Not again.
I was staring at the list as I'm talking about it, going, we just said that this was movie 12. What are we missing?
What are we doing?
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. So kind of fun. We're gonna get to our rankings, our updated rankings at the end of the show as we add Ant-Man, of course, to the mix. That is today's episode. We're gonna get into everything on Ant-Man, the first solo adventure not to feature one of the original Avengers here. So the MCU starts this little bit of branching out here. But why don't we talk about just real quick kind of first impressions of the film, your kind of simple thoughts on it, if you will, because we're going to have a deep dive into this shortly. John, why don't we go to you first? Overall thoughts on Ant-Man.
I love this movie so much. It's so different. It legitimately is a comedy. Like, this is the first movie in the MCU, I guess, up to this point, that is almost kind of a different genre. Like, this is less of a superhero movie, and it certainly is that a little bit. I would say it's a comedy and a heist movie. Those are kind of the two biggest themes you get out of it. So it was the most different movie we've got from the MCU, and I think it was one of those things where I was all in on the MCU and I was ready to go. I think I definitely saw this in theaters, but I wasn't like super pumped about it. I'm like, okay, it's Ant-Man. We're gonna watch the first trailer in a moment. I think the trailer had some hints that it was gonna be funny. Obviously with Paul Rudd, that you got that vibe. So I wasn't like incredibly pumped about this movie coming out, but it just absolutely nailed everything it tried to do. It is such a good movie beginning to end. I think it has a really cool cast, a great villain, and it's just super, super funny. I love Ant-Man.
JT.
Honestly, I just love that they knew a lot of people are like, don't like the quips and little jokes that are all throughout the MCU. I'm a fan of it, depending on where and when they go about it, right? But Ant-Man just owned up to what it was. Like that's what it was going to be. That's why it was fun, funny and great to watch. And Paul Rudd was just, the overall impression of Paul Rudd is great for Ant-Man.
Perfect. He's perfect.
Perfect fit in every way. Ant-Man to the comics, no, but Ant-Man to what it's meant to be in the MCU, absolutely. He's exactly what they needed, and I've always been a fan of his regardless. But to be in that role and yeah, I loved it.
What's funny is going into this, I, for whatever reason, was not a huge Paul Rudd fan. And I know that's funny because like he had been very, very popular at that point. he was one of the biggest names, I feel like, especially at that point in the MCU, to enter the MCU, having already been really, really established. There were a lot of big names, but to me, Paul Rudd was next level. Regardless, this kind of changed that perspective a little bit for me. Like he nails this role. He's kind of the MCU's everyman, if you will, and it works so much, whether he's in these Ant-Man solo movies or we see him in Captain America Civil War or the Avengers. Like the way he interacts with the rest of them is just, it's wonderful. And his comedy brings a lot to the table. JT, like you, I'm a huge fan of the quirks and the jokes and all of that in the MCU. I think that's part of what makes this so much fun. And I know some people don't like it, but then it's probably just not for you, because that's a big part of what the MCU is.
Absolutely.
Getting into a little bit of what the box office numbers looks like for this, not surprising, but nothing crazy. So the movie came out July 17th, 2015, right on the heels, relatively speaking, of Avengers Age of Ultron. And the worldwide number was $519,311,965. That's
pretty. I mean, for a non-Avengers movie in 2015, it's not the ensemble cast. I feel like that's pretty good.
It's good. I don't know that it's almost considered a success, which is funny.
What was the budget for it? Do you know that?
Oh, I'm not sure on that.
It couldn't have been more than like 120 or so. Yeah, I don't know.
120. I mean,
500 sounds like a pretty good success for a. I don't know. I mean, I guess what were the other non-Avengers movies doing like at that time? 500 sounds like a good amount for 2015 to me, at least.
Yeah, I mean, and coming off like you said, coming off the heels of Ultron, I mean, that was such a big showing, and one of my favorite MCU movies personally is to come off of that and still do half a bill. I mean,
yeah. So all right, I mean, so I guess for reference, one that we talked about pretty recently, Captain America: Winter Soldier only did 714, so it didn't cross $1 billion. So I mean, 200 million less than the second Captain America movie. I feel like that's a pretty good showing for Ant-Man.
One of my
I would say it is too. I'm thinking from Marvel's perspective.
Now it's different. I mean, now we're at a point where in 2019 they put out 3 $1 billion movies in the same year. So like that, I think once Infinity War hit, they kind of just crossed the threshold where it's like, all right, there's a good chance anything we do is going to hit $1 billion.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that streak they went on with the, if you even think to like 2019, I think they had 7. Disney had 7 movies.
Disney, that makes sense.
Mind blowing, right? So you had Star Wars, Rise of Skywalker. You had Endgame. What else came out? Captain Marvel.
Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Yes. And then they had a few other
live action.
2, I feel like. Toy Story 4.
Could have been Lion King that year too, maybe.
Yeah. It was Lion King and or Aladdin. So
it might have been Aladdin. That actually sounds more accurate time wise.
Kind of crazy to think about how big of a juggernaut 2019 was. But I mean, you think too, like Wonder Woman, not Marvel or Disney, but it came out in 2017, and I think it did not. I don't even remember now. I should have done some research before bringing up that point. I guess I feel like it did somewhere between 700 and 800 million, and that was like considered almost a letdown. But like, how could it be? Like, it was
I see those numbers,
so
and
well
I don't. Yeah. When I see those numbers, I don't think that's a letdown. I mean, I think there's some people out there that think Blockbuster nowadays and need that $1 billion mark to validate it. But I mean, 500 million, 700 million, that's a lot of money, man. That's killer. I don't know if we're ever going to see a movie do that again after in a post pandemic world.
Yeah, they should reset that clock right now and be like, all right, here from now on, this is when we're comparing movies.
Right.
It could go 2 ways. If things open full capacity, though, I think it could raise the level. Who knows?
Yeah.
People have been stuck at home, and
Sure.
I don't know,
I think you're gonna have
a
a balance there between people, yes, who want to get out, but then people who still don't feel like they're ready for that. So we'll see.
Right.
I've been of the mind that movies will still do very well because even at, let's say, a quarter capacity, except for an opening night movie for Star Wars or Marvel, when's the last time you were at a packed theater where you like couldn't find a seat? Just saying. We'll see what the numbers look like when movies start hitting again, which is actually just depending on where you are in the country right now.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see A Quiet Place 2 at the end of the month. almost
Oh,
got there.
same.
Yes,
Same.
yeah.
Yeah, I had those tickets booked. Literally in my Apple Wallet, I have A Quiet Place 2 purchased and obviously refunded since then for like March 20th of 2020. So that's one of like my favorite little time capsules about not much to favoritize over the pandemic, but it's just so interesting to look back at. It's like, man, I was going to see that movie and that's still not out yet. It's insane.
Dude, I wanted to so bad see the John and I were talking about this, the marathon of A Quiet Place
back
and
to
A Quiet
back.
Place 2. And I was in the Geekiverse Slack and I said, hey, anyone want to go see this? And just someone said, does anyone want to tell them? And I was like, no.
Yeah.
The movies just started getting pulled. So like,
Uh,
I was so close. But you know what? I'm just a few weeks away.
We're almost full circle. We've almost completed the circle.
Yes.
I can't wait to be back in the theater, man. That's like literally my happy place. Like I don't care if it's just me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love the theater.
It's great. And to bring it back full circle, throughout this whole pandemic, I've been the one just begging Black Widow to come to Disney Plus. I'm like, just put it on Disney Plus, you cowards. You're losing money. You're gonna make so much money.
But we were like addicts coming off the biggest movies we've watched
for
ever,
sure.
right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, to not have anything, it was brutal.
It was a long time, but to come full circle, it's finally confirmed to come to Disney Plus, and it's probably going to be the first movie I see back in theaters. So I'm not even going to support the model that I was begging for, because I'm probably going to feel
like John has to do both.
I know, honestly, I might buy a ticket and then just go watch it again, for $30 on.
Put your money worry about this on that one. John was such a big advocate of it, but
they waited too long.
I know.
I'm gonna support Scarlett Jo in any way I can. I love her.
Yeah,
she
I will
deserves
be
her
there in the
spotlight.
theaters for sure. I mean, speaking of which, before we get on to our next bullet point here, fellas, we saw the trailer the other day, right? There's 4 Marvel movies coming out from July to December. Are you kidding me right now?
Pumped.
We're gonna make up for some lost time here.
I'm pumped, but I don't know if I buy it yet. I don't know if I buy that Eternals. I know we just saw a little bit of footage, but I don't know if I can fully get on board with the fact that Eternals is coming out this year because we've seen so little. But I'm happy to be surprised on that.
I'd agree with you, but they were pretty bold with the rest of the dates. I just feel like, and the
Eternals was supposed to be out last November, correct?
Yeah,
this past November.
Avengers 5 was supposed to be out last summer. I don't know. At this point, I don't even know.
Who knows at this point? I mean, I'm hyped for Eternals, so I got to be honest. Like, I've never read any comics, know much about the Eternals in general. But my understanding is there's going to be a lot of explanation in that movie as to why, what, when, where. When all this happened, where were you, type of thing. So I'm excited. I kind of hate not knowing some things. I feel like all through Endgame, I knew almost everything that was going to happen or had an idea. But now, I'm learning new characters. I'm learning new people. Miss Marvel's coming. You know what I mean? Besides the Avengers game, I didn't know much about her either. So,
sure. So for the,
I'm excited.
For the 4 films, we have what? We have Black Widow. We have Spider-Man: No Way Home. Is that the name of it? No Way Home. Eternals and Shang-Chi. Okay, so those are the 4.
I'm excited for that too.
Of those 4, I think the one that I have the least confidence in hitting would be Eternals, probably. But we'll see.
I would agree with that. Shang-Chi to me hits a sweet spot. I love anything consisting of any influence on martial arts, and I'm really into that, to bring that into the MCU. And then of course we end the year with a Spider-Man movie. Are you kidding me, man? Good times, everybody. Let's see here. Next bullet point. So we talked about box office numbers. Do you remember your first viewing here? Like, give us a quick snapshot of that. If you need a second to reflect, I can go first here. Like I said before, off the heels of Age of Ultron, I remember my dad and I going to see it, and I was not yet at a point in my MCU love that was kind of newfound in the last year prior to that with Guardians of the Galaxy. I was not like an opening night guy yet. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, as soon as tickets go on sale, get me there. Then I was like, yeah, I'll see it when I see it, kind of thing. So we went, I want to say probably the week after this came out, just my dad and I during the day, had a good time. It was so laid back and chill. And I think that's why I like this, partially why I like this movie, is not that Age of Ultron was so intense that we needed a cool off, but this was a nice transition. It was a new character. It was Ant-Man. It was Paul Rudd, and it was just a fun movie. So I think that's what I remember about it most, is that I just had fun watching it. I mean, what do you guys think? Were you in the same boat?
I think I'm kind of just sad thinking about it because we're just not in the theater yet. But we'll forget about that for a second.
We're gonna get there.
So it came out I think a little after my birthday. So I have a Marvel crew. So every time I watch any Marvel movie, it's me, my wife, my two brothers. We've added a friend so far, and I think another friend's adding on. All I know is I make sure I watch it. I'm not going to worry about getting 7 tickets. People want to hurry up and get their tickets. I just was excited. Anytime I can watch any new MCU with my crew, we've watched every movie since Avengers 1 together, I think, all of us. I loved it. I loved every part of it. Like you said, Paul Rudd, always a fan of him. And I missed the experience. It just I'm nostalgic. I'll put it that way.
JT, I can almost taste that popcorn, man. We're almost there.
Oh, no. Well, me, the wife is a popcorn.
Uh-oh.
JT froze.
Oh no!
I think the gods have spited him for about to say he doesn't like popcorn. That's kind of like a serial offense. I don't think we can accept that on the show. So, John, if you didn't know, you froze right when you said the word popcorn because I think you were about to say you didn't like it, and now I see you back. We see you moving now. So, what were you about to say?
So that's pop. Okay, we're good. So I like pretzels and cheese more than popcorn, and then the wife has popcorn.
Can't get mad at you for that.
She takes my cheese with the popcorn.
That's a pro maneuver right there. That's a pro move right there.
Well,
popcorn and cheese.
I tell her to get her own thing of cheese. I'll pay for it.
Why would she have some? You have some right there. She knows what she's doing.
That's ridiculous.
JT, you know how this works. She doesn't want any. But then when you have it, it looks so good. You just gotta have some. I'm a pro at this.
The worst.
Yeah.
And then can you bring my? Well, I don't want Regal to come at me, but can you bring my drink inside the theater? Oh, my purse is still full. Okay, whatever.
We're going to the movies. Empty the purse.
We've all heard it.
That's what the purse is for right now.
Mm-hmm. If I'm gonna put some crab legs in there, you better empty that.
Jeez, if you don't be that guy, I hate when people bring anything pungent to a theater. I know crab legs is like a crazy extreme.
And I know you'll love this because you're a Five Guys guy.
Oh no!
I had a woman.
Five Guys.
You know what? I'm sorry. This is totally off topic a little bit, but we were watching Avengers 1. I'll always remember this. This is the most memorable experience I've ever had. This woman had the largest spread of Five Guys for her and her 5 kids I've ever seen. Enough for me to eat and everybody else with to eat. And I honestly almost asked her for a burger, but she literally the bag was like full. I mean, just handing out burgers.
That's offensive. Like that. I mean, like there's a line there when it's like, all right, come on, this is everybody's experience. If you're bringing anything that's hot and has a smell to it, like that's not what I'm here for. I want to smell popcorn. That's not that's
bacon
too much.
Cheeseburger, and I mean it smelled good. I was hungry. So
JT, little did you know the burgers cost about $150 combined, but that massive bag of fries $3.
Yeah, exactly. That's the Five Guys model right there.
Oh man, that's where I'm going after this. I think. John, kind of your memories of your first time seeing this movie.
Yeah, so I can't put my finger on who I was with, but I know I had to talk them into it. I don't know if it was my fiance or if it was a friend of mine. I didn't quite have my MCU crew yet because once I started working at Apple was when I really like nailed in like a bunch of core dudes that I was going to see these movies with. And I don't think I was at Apple in 2015. That doesn't sound right. Oh wait, yes I was. So that must have been it, and I must have had to talk the crew into going to see Ant-Man at least opening weekend. Maybe they were not down to see it right away, but I just wanted something to do that night. I knew I was going to see it eventually, but like I said, we're going to watch the trailer in a second. I was like, okay, another new MCU character. I'm sure I'm going to like it. I'm sure they're going to sell me on it, but like I'm not pumped about it. And that's kind of how a bunch of my buddies felt about it too. So I had to talk some people into it. And I remember going and seeing that in opening weekend, may have been like a Saturday or Sunday, a couple of days after it came out, and all of us just being like, man, this is the point where we're like, we had a little bit of this in Guardians of the Galaxy as well, but kind of just nailed it home that these guys are not missing right now. They are taking characters that we don't care about. They are doing different genres. Like this is a straight up comedy heist movie. Like I said before, this is not a superhero movie whatsoever. There's some fun elements about it, and obviously some great ties to the MCU, but this is a different genre, and they just nailed it. So like, I remember that first viewing in the theater is just like standing around in the hallway of the theater just talking about how blown away we were. So man, what an experience.
I think I mentioned it on the Guardians of the Galaxy episode. So we're talking about last summer now. Game Informer basically has their calendar of movies and games coming out, and they reference Guardians coming out in that August. So August 2014. And they say, all right, Marvel, we get it. This is a test. if you get us to care about Guardians of the Galaxy, something nobody cares about, then we're in. Joke's on them, man.
Yeah.
Because Guardians of the Galaxy was awesome, and then you get Ant-Man, and you get these other characters throughout, and even to where we're going next, like Eternals and Shang-Chi. Like I don't necessarily say that I would be excited about those movies except for this track record.
Exactly.
Right? Like I'm sold because they've given me no reason to think otherwise. So why don't John, if you want to cue up the trailer, I'll give another quick promo here. Again, the show here is presented by Fantastic. It's 26shirts.com/Fantastic. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see the wonderful shirts that John and I have on. If you're listening, we'll have to describe them pretty quickly for you. But John's got the Scott Lang's Pro Skater, which is fantastic. A wonderful mashup of Ant-Man and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. So all you gamers out there will really appreciate that. For me, I've got the Porguins t-shirt on, which was a limited run, kind of Pittsburgh Penguins-inspired Porgs from Star Wars crossover. So, as I said pre-show, we don't want to talk about it, but I'm in the market for a new NHL team right now. The Sabres have kind of given us the last straw with not wanting to, but probably more likely than not getting rid of Jack and or Sam this summer. It's too much. So I'm in the market for a new team, but it worked out because I had a different shirt on pre-show. I spilled something on it, and now I've got this. So here we are. But again, that's 26shirts.com/Fantastic. Portions of every sale go to those in need, whether that's a family, a charity, or an individual. You're supporting a great cause. They've raised over $1.1 million to date, which is quite unbelievable. So we love those guys over there, led by Del Reed and crew. And we'd appreciate if you go check them out. John, do we have the trailer queued up?
Yeah, let's get that trailer going. So if you're watching at home, I'm gonna pull up the trailer, and you guys will be looking at us and the trailer podcast. You'll be able to listen to it, but these guys are gonna have to sync up and press play when I say so because they can't see what you see. So I have got it, and if you guys want to go ahead and play right now.
Scott, I've been watching you for a while now. You're different. Now, don't let anyone tell you that you have nothing to offer. Second chances don't come around all that often. I suggest you take a really close look at it. This is your chance to earn that look in your daughter's eyes, to become the hero that she already thinks you are. It's not about saving our world. It's about saving theirs. Scott, I need you to be the Ant-Man.
Huh. One question. Is it too late to change the name?
So here's what I'll say, and that kind of speaks to what I was talking about when I was talking about the level of hype for that movie. That trailer doesn't do how funny this movie actually is justice. Like it has a lot of like very serious origin story, almost like an Iron Man 1 origin story type vibe to that trailer. Obviously we get the little quip at the end about changing the name and like, all right, cool, Paul Rudd's in this, he's going to be Paul Rudd, but like I almost would have expected more of like an upbeat, like San Francisco type vibe to the first trailer of this movie. I don't even know if I remember seeing that since I probably haven't rewatched that since it was first unveiled. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
That's for sure the first time I've seen that trailer since before the movie came out 6 years ago now. That does not capture the flavor or essence of the movie at all. And it's bizarre because to me, Guardians of the Galaxy did.
Yeah.
If we're talking comparables, you know, a little bit 10 or 11 months before Ant-Man comes out, comes Guardians. And that movie had me hyped, and I knew pretty much what I was getting into. That does not feel at all to me like the movie does, where it's comedy and heist. This feels more akin to a small scale intensity that we'd see on like an Avengers or a Captain America movie, where it's like, we got to save the world. It's not for us, it's for them. I don't know, kind of interesting. And for the most part, we've enjoyed these trailers, and it's not to say that I don't enjoy that one, but I kind of missed the boat. Like, swing or fall full weight into what your strength is there, and it's Paul Rudd and what he brings to the table. JT, what are you thinking?
So I can't remember exactly how I felt back when I watched it, obviously in 2015, but I like, did Marvel really have, I guess there's a question first, did Marvel have the Marvelness of today back then? They were getting there, right?
In my eyes, Guardians is when they like really convinced the world. Like Josiah told that story about the Game Informer. Like, you know, if they can convince us, then I think so. But I think I know what you're getting at, where it's like, all right, maybe they weren't sure, like based on maybe they weren't sure they could sell a funny movie that didn't feature something crazy like Guardians of the Galaxy.
I'm wondering if they felt they needed to keep the general theme of the other movies, you know, besides Guardians, just to keep drawing some people in. And that's why they felt that trailer was what they needed. And then boom, it's a surprise. Now that's boom or bust, right? So boom, it's a surprise and people love it, or boom, it's a surprise and people hate it. So maybe that's why you didn't get more than the 500 million we talked about.
Yeah.
You know, some people may have not liked it. And for me, I love the fact it was more like Deadpoolish. You know, that kind of vibe.
Sure.
It just didn't give that off in the trailer. Especially, I'm assuming I didn't feel that way back then either. So
yeah,
this feels safe. This feels like, you know, I guess the Marvel I know is what we talked about, a little bit more of that balance between the comedy and action. But here, it's more a serious tone. Almost feels like a trailer we would have gotten for like an Iron Man 1 or 2.
Yeah, exactly.
If we go back that far. Like, we're going back in time from 2015 to 2008 or 2010. So I've enjoyed this experiment most in terms of on the show, us watching a trailer and seeing how we dig up feelings or how it correlates to the movie. Because this is the biggest outlier that I can remember so far of anything we've watched.
For sure.
It's kind of interesting to see. And we've talked impressions on the film a little bit, but if you guys had to ballpark it, do you know how many times you've seen this movie? Whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, so I'll say it's not one that I always like, even though it's like a comedy like we've talked about, it's not one that I've tossed on just kind of like as a background movie. It's like, I've got nothing on, let's toss on Ant-Man. I've probably put it on to watch it for these kind of rewatches that I've put myself through. Like anytime I'm looking to like rewatch the MCU is probably really the only time I've sat down and rewatched it. So I'd probably put it at like 4. This may have been maybe like the 5th time I've sat through and like watched this movie all the way through. But I mean, I will say that I like it more and more every time. So like, I'm kind of excited to rewatch it again.
So I would say this is the first time I've watched it to try to find the minor little Easter eggs and details myself, right? Like I think I've definitely watched it, I'd say maybe 3 times. This is the 4th. Just rewatches in general for the whole MCU. I do that too often, I feel like. But nothing that's just, like John said, it's not a throw in the background thing for me. Just randomly speaking, like Endgame's my always throw in the background thing. Like I can watch Endgame a million times over. So, nothing on that level. So about 3-4 times.
Yeah, I think it kind of almost like speaks to the fact that like it's just a really good cohesive movie. There's almost nothing crazy tentpole about it. Like we're gonna have a segment a little bit later, like what's your favorite moment from the movie? When I was watching this film, it was tough for me to sit down and think about a moment that was the moment for this one. It's just a really good cohesive film, so it's not something I toss on just because I just want something on in the background. It's something that when I sit down to watch it, I want to sit down and watch it.
You know what's funny is I find a balance there. So for me, I've probably watched this straight through easily between 8 and 10 times. This has been, because it was right around the time when I was finding that love or that passion for the MCU, where that was really starting to be established for me. This one is past that, where I've sat down and watched it 8 to 10 times. I would estimate also a background movie for me, or one to kind of have on as I fall asleep. Like we've all got those shows or movies that we put on, whether it's Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus now. That's been one that because I feel like it's got these happy the comedic for sure, but like it's not a super intense movie, so it works for me to fall asleep to in a lot of cases. And that was a go-to for me maybe a few years ago. So I would say 8 to 10 times plus all those kind of half viewings when I fell asleep to it. Favorite non-title character. So anyone not named Scott Lang here, who's your favorite character in this movie? You could name a handful here. John and I always kind of like try to get there first, but I'm going to cede it to JT.
JT, he wins the jackpot. There's only one.
100% is Luis. Luis is my favorite, hands down. First of all, I'm Hispanic, so repping Hispanics all day. He's just the perfect fit. I mean, speaking of this movie, and then obviously Amanda Wasp, and his little parts and how he connects the dots with the Avengers. Like, how does some random guy just connects you to the Avengers? And his stories are honestly. So again, I'm Hispanic. That's exactly how Hispanic stories go. Like that, stories go like hours,
tangents,
and they can't just
tangents.
get. Avengers are looking for you. Like it, you can't just tell them. You need to tell them everything that happened in between. And it's like, talking to my wife, and it's I
was just about to say I'm gonna have to get my fiance to take a 23andMe because she's got some tangents.
Listen, that's definitely how it is in the world of Puerto Rican life, I guess, if you want to call it. But yeah, he's who wouldn't pick him? I mean, I'm assuming you guys are either there or may have someone a little different, maybe, but. Luis 100%.
Yeah, I did have someone else in mind because I felt Luis was obvious.
Go ahead.
So maybe that is an answer. At the end of the movie, Michael Pena, though, like I respect comedy moments like this so much, where it's so clearly not a part of the script, but like he just did it because Michael brought that to the table. But he said yes, and then he does this.
Yeah,
like this, like twitchy half smile. I freaking love that so much. I love that. So good. It's so good. Yeah, JT, that's a good one. I had to steer the ship from John there just to see what was going to happen. Right. John, I'm going to let you go next.
Ah, man, it's so tough because like that. I almost feel like there really aren't a ton of standout characters in this film other than Luis, but I'm gonna go with another member of the crew. I'm gonna go with T.I. I think his name is. I had to look it up. His name's Dave. His name's Dave apparently, but I think I didn't know T.I. acted at all. This was probably the first movie I saw him in. Like when I first saw him, like man, T.I. like he can carry his scene and he's super funny. So he does stand out to me too. It's just another that whole trio, all three of the partners there, just such a great comic relief. They're so perfect, and like I remember the first time seeing this movie and like, oh, he's got his friends outside of prison, and when they realize that they have to bring some more people in, I'm like, yes, they're bringing back the goofballs. Like I'm like so pumped about it. So that whole trio is great, but I thought T.I.'s really good too.
They work so well together. I love that crew so much. I hope we get more of them in Quantumania, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be Ant-Man 3 whenever that hits. I love when T.I. is introduced. He goes, "What's your name?" "Dave." So great. Like this dry humor, and those guys play off each other so great. Towards the end of the movie, they're being pursued by the cops, and they just keep shushing each other.
It's so good.
Yeah, those guys truly brought a new element to the movie that wouldn't have been there otherwise. Character I actually had in mind, neither of you took. I'm going to go with Hank Pym. I love Michael Douglas in this role. We see him more prominent in the trailer, right? He's narrating everything that's going on there. But big fan of Michael Douglas's performance in this movie. Love the family dynamic and the... I'm going to get into some of those in my notes here as we get towards the end of the episode. But just a good presence between kind of being a little bit uptight and having these moments where he breaks into the comedy and meets Scott Rudd halfway. Scott Rudd. Wow. How about that? Paul Rudd
hybrid
halfway.
There.
I just combined them. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Hank Pym. And it's funny, like, because I had no previous or preconceived notion going into Ant-Man about anything Ant-Man. I didn't know what the character's supposed to be. Didn't know if he's supposed to be serious or funny or what that dynamic looks like. And then I get there, and I kind of like that it was fresh, but like they went with Scott Lang over Hank Pym, and that was like an MCU choice. They could have gone vice versa there. So for what it's worth, I know maybe longtime comic fans may have had other things to say about it, but for me, that was just not a thing. This was like almost a learning experience for me. And I think you guys are maybe in similar boats where you didn't have some of that background as well.
Oh yeah, I had no connection to Ant-Man, and this movie was my introduction to Hank Pym and Scott Lang. So, yep.
Yeah, same boat.
The next bullet point we want to get to here, that moment. So we say that moment, quote unquote. What is the moment in the movie that maybe sticks out most in your mind? Whether it was a funny line, maybe a tender moment that was a little bit smaller in scale, you name it. Anything come to mind? And if not right off the bat, I do have one.
I have one too. So I did say it took me a while to think about this, but it's because my favorite moment is definitely at the end. We talk about this being a comedy and a heist movie, but this final battle between the Yellow Jacket and Ant-Man is really awesome. They use the gimmick of the character, the powers of the Ant-Man, the limited powers of the Ant-Man, super well and super creatively. That final scene when there's a lot that goes on and gets him there, but using the shrinking and enlarging discs to get one of the ants to be huge, and when they're running around in the train set, like those set pieces, like it was funny obviously at the same time, but like it was just such a cool way to use that gimmick. I thought that whole final fight, one of the strongest endings in an MCU movie, like the final climax was just so clever with using all of the things that have been established in this film, all the callbacks and all the little toys, the tank, everything like that. Like it was so well done. That final fight and the use of all of those shrinking and enlarging text was my definite that moment.
So I think, I'm with John for sure. That's definitely, it kind of took it. So I got to give something else. And I did have something else anyway, but I love the final battle. It was awesome. I'm weird because I love all of the pre-Avengers content. So when we saw Peggy and Howard Stark in the beginning, Hank Pym when he was younger, and knowing that Ant-Man existed, prior to, with all the videos that they have and pictures and things like that, getting to the background of him and Janet, obviously Hank Pym and Janet Pym. I want more of that. So I almost, like, for me, it's a good moment because I love seeing all the past stuff that's happened, right? Like T'Chaka in Black Panther when he was younger. I want personally a pre-Vengers Disney Plus series with T'Chaka, with Hank Pym, with Janet. I don't know if it ever happened, but I would just love this. Like you never know if they interacted, right? They can bring anything up at this point. I would just, for me, I think there's so much stuff that happened in that time period. We see it with the Captain Isaiah Bradley.
Yeah.
He existed and we never knew until Captain Winter Soldier. So, or I'm sorry.
No, you got it. You nailed it.
Well, Captain Winter Soldier. He is Cap now.
The final title
the series.
Cap. Yeah.
The series, the official Cap now. I love those little trinkets, those little things. So I mean, I personally would like to see that in some kind of series, even if animated. I would definitely like to see that. So for me, that was a good moment. I just love the old content.
I can speak to that too because previously on this show I've said that, like, I've just never really cared that much about S.H.I.E.L.D. So if you go back to our Winter Soldier, the movie Winter Soldier, that episode, and when I talk a little bit about how it's not as high of like an S tier movie for me like it is everybody else, it's partially because I didn't really care about S.H.I.E.L.D. The fact that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. existed kind of even tainted it more for me. Like, I don't want to watch a network television show. Like, S.H.I.E.L.D. in a nutshell was kind of just like whatever for me. This was actually one of the first like little scenes that made me think like, oh, there's like some really cool lineage in what happened there. Seeing Peggy Carter and seeing what's Tony Stark's father's name? Howard Stark. Seeing that version of Howard Stark and seeing them all interact and like, oh man, the Pym particles, like this is like 1989, like that. I will say that intro was super strong, and it was one of the little breadcrumbs to get me on team. Like, okay, this S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff is actually pretty cool. So.
Yeah. It hooks you really fast because you're like, hey, there's some recognizable characters, right? Like that's a very good tie-in, especially for, as we were talking about, to a character that we don't really have any history with Ant-Man, or at least the average fan maybe doesn't. For me, I love both of your points there. I'm going to bring up a little bit more emotional or tender moment in the movie, and it's when Hank is talking to Hope really about what happens to Hope's mother and why she did what she did and went subatomic, and finally, like after all these years, he's finally saying, this is why I'm doing what I do as a dad, right? And It's super emotional. It grips you the whole time. And then at the end, like nobody else can, Paul Rudd makes it hilariously awkward. And just standing there, he goes, "This is awesome." And I ruined the moment, didn't I? Like it's so good because he ruins the moment, but from our standpoint, he actually makes it better. Without it's such a fine line between taking the air out of an emotional scene and just making it funny. So he found a way to do kind of both of those things without making it cringy. So like I said, it's only Paul Rudd can do. But that would be my moment.
Love that.
I want to get to JT. Typically on the show here, I've got just way too many notes, and we've covered a lot of them. But I'm going to jump through them. If you guys have some comments, definitely break in because I want to talk about them more. But as I go through the show, I've got these kind of observations that I just bullet point on my phone, and I'll get to it. So we mentioned already this is the first solo movie outside of the original Avengers, so that was a big deal, right? We're still testing the waters here, unless you count Guardians of the Galaxy. But to me, it's almost a little bit of a team up. I mentioned that I had reservations on Paul Rudd going into this. That just went away after seeing that he had, I wouldn't say ability, but he had some versatility, I think is a better word, as an actor. To not just do those quirky comedies, but to bring his own flavor and personality into a superhero franchise. So those reservations quelled. I'm mentioning that 26 Shirts had a very, very popular meme for Avengers Endgame. After the trailer came out, if you remember, at the very end, it's Scott Lang waving at the camera, basically, for the security camera, saying that he's there and he's got the van. Basically, I don't want to butcher this, but it was to the effect of 26 Shirts putting out a meme that said, half of humanity is basically gone, but we got the van, which was, a nice callback there.
Right.
I love the theme. I don't know why this is so funny, but that Baskin Robbins always finds out.
Oh, I love that. That was so good. I totally forgot about that. That whole Baskin Robbins thing, like the way the manager handles that situation, and the way like Luis and T.I. or Dave, I keep forgetting his name, is just T.I. to me. But the way they react, like, that's so good. Baskin Robbins always find out, man. So good.
Luis, man. Baskin Robbins always finds out, bro.
Yep.
It's so good. So I think the manager's name is Dale. Like, that's so hysterical. Mm-hmm. That guy. I'm in charge of this guy.
Oh yeah,
we can't keep you, obviously.
It wasn't a violent crime. It was a cool crime.
It's a cool crime.
What an acting performance that is. At the very end, so you notice he says, "Totally cool, off the records, off the books. I'll look the other way if you take a mango fruit blast on the way out." He did. So he's drinking one as Scott is walking out of being fired. Pretty funny. I have maybe this is loaded, maybe not. I have an answer in my head already, but I want to ask you guys this. Is Darren the worst MCU villain?
Oh, no. Not even close.
No,
I love Darren. I mean, like, all right, that was an overreaction. I don't love him. I think he's very, very well written, and I think it's like perfect for this plot. I don't like he himself. I think plays the character he's supposed to, and he's completely unredeemable. He doesn't have any of those kind of qualities we look for in someone, some of the more two-dimensional type villains. But I think he's perfect for this plot, and there's definitely worse villains. I think Obadiah Stane is by far worse. I think there's a lot of. I think we can go through that list.
Okay, so definitely not Obadiah from my standpoint. Good points overall, John. JT, I want to hear your answer to that.
The worst, no. I think you're a little upset with the writers. Kind of speaking of what John said, he was a one-dimensional, typical villain of a superhero movie.
Yeah,
I'm mad. I'm angry. I'm bad. Stop me. Okay, you stop me. Movie over.
But
I mean, that's kind of like.
That's
not really dare. But no, and that's not bad though. So I don't mind that, right? Like that's just what that movie was. And speaking to. I guess the lower budgetness of it, like that's just what it was going to be, right?
Real quick before John gets his point in.
Yep.
I'm not saying he's the worst. I'm just asking.
You're asking the question. That's fair.
Okay.
So not even a rebuttal to that, kind of just to support that. Yes, super one dimensional, but the writing is very transparent about it. Like, and there's really
exactly,
and there's no like plot holes is even too much of a word to use, but there's no gaps in why he gets where he gets, because like right away there's a quick mention that this serum messes with someone's mind, and then they give us this really cool scene where he just straight up kills somebody in cold blood very early in the movie. So we know, like, we don't have to get with an Obadiah Stane. All of a sudden he's this CEO who wants to make a lot of money and he wants to keep selling weapons. And then 2 seconds later, he's murdering thousands of people in the streets with a super suit, right? So, like, that's the jump in logic. We kind of got a little bit more clever writing, or at least just a good paper trail as to why he gets to where he gets. Like, he's spent his life, he's obsessed over this, and now the chemicals are affecting his brain, he's doing some crazy stuff. ISIS a dude in cold blood in the bathroom. Okay, we get it. This guy is a villain. He's not just a CEO who wants to make money. He's a bad dude. Got it. Noted. Now I know why this final fight's going to be a real final fight.
I guess some people could just have an issue with what the plan was for him, but they executed their plan perfectly. Is kind of what you're saying. Like they knew what they had with him, they went with it. So yeah. I agree. He's the worst. Definitely
it's not amazing, but yeah, go ahead.
No. I start out this movie every time I forget the 8 to 10 previous views that I've had of it, and I'm like, oh gosh, this guy sucks when I first see him. But then as the movie goes on, my mind inevitably transforms to, it's not that bad from a character standpoint.
Yeah.
So I'm more in line with you guys, but it's just a question that I always have on my mind, and then I question that. So I'd say right off the top of my head, Malekith is worse because he's terribly forgettable.
Oh, God. Forgot about him.
Dark World, right? Awful.
You could have given me an hour, I wouldn't have gotten that name right.
Who is the villain in Incredible Hulk? Is that Abomination?
Yeah, it's Abomination. Yep, it's Abomination.
Okay. He's below that. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of bad villains.
I don't want to get off on a tangent. There's Jude Law's character in Captain Marvel. I would even say just like so. I quickly get back to like the middle ground with him. I think there's actually pretty good development with him, despite being relatively one-dimensional. Because you mentioned there's reasons to why he is the way he is. There's the serum, so to speak. There's the emotional issues with not having or kind of been rejected by Hank, his mentor, right? Like there's some baggage there. He's not totally this jerk for no reason. Doesn't make it any less worse, but you can at least get behind it a little bit. Like we talked about. Not that we could ever in a million years justify what Thanos does down the line, but it's not that he's just doing it for no reason. At least there's something there. So doesn't justify it, but I wanted to ask the question because it kind of came to mind as I was watching it.
I think it's a fair question. He's very one-dimensional, and he's almost pretty. He's a pretty bland character, but I think it's written well, and I think he serves the purpose of the plot well enough without having any glaring plot holes.
He doesn't make me roll my eyes every time I see him on screen past the first time.
There you go.
So
that's enough.
Once there's a little development, I actually don't think it's a bad performance, and I think it's a decent character. So I'm happy we had that discussion. I wanted to ask it. Bullet points again. Scott and Cassie's relationship, man, it's good. Beautiful. I call my daughter Peanut, and that's absolutely where I got that from. Right? It's how it goes. So I love their dynamic. I love their the loyalty from his daughter, despite being in kind of a messy situation, and I love also how it mirrors Hank and Hope's relationship to a degree. So that's something that I don't know if it's just because I have a daughter myself, but you kind of start to see these things from a little bit different perspective. So I think it's all it's beautiful. Obviously, as we've gushed a little bit, this is the start of Luisa's awesome lip sync montages, I call them. Sync montage. Man, just so good throughout. We get the one midway through the film, and of course the one at the end, which has some really nice tidbits. But again, Michael Pena, man. Those
are so much fun, and my favorite thing to do is imagine the actor listening to Michael Pena and trying to match his lips. My favorite one is Anthony Mackie when he's sitting on the bench. If you just watch his facial expressions, you can tell he's just listening to. Obviously, that's the way they had to record this. That they listened to his VO and then he tries to match it. It's just so funny, like just watching Anthony Mackie try to nail that, and he does. It's super good.
What a fun day or days that those must have been on set recording
Right.
all of that. Like, just Michael, you go do your thing. We're gonna bring it to the set.
Yep.
It's just so good.
That's awesome.
I love the line. So when Scott's trying to blow the safe door off in the basement, and they go, "It killed DiCaprio."
Oh yeah. He killed everybody, not the old lady.
I love those guys. Their
Yep.
dynamic's so good.
Hmm.
This is a little bit off the beaten path, kind of, but I do like that it kind of establishes. The movie does a good job establishing the perspective from being shrunken, right? So if you're
I was gonna bring this
Scott
up.
and you get in this suit, I think that was not necessarily an easy thing to do, and they did a good job of it. But John, give me your thoughts on that.
So actually, I was going to go somewhere else with that, but I do have something to say about that as well. Super, super cool. I think that the effects are incredible. The way they not even just the effects, the way they give him weight and the way they explain that he has the same density, if not increased density, maybe they even said. So when he first puts it on, he's falling through the apartment and he falls through the ceiling, the little puff of concrete to show you that he went through a concrete wall. That stuff's really good. But then there's a few times where I'm like, wait a minute. You just fell from the ceiling and just landed on a record. Why did that record not shatter? If you can, funny stuff like that stands out. That's certainly not taking me out of the movie. I'm just thinking about that kind of stuff. They did a good job overall with it. Where I was gonna go with it is, dude, when he goes subatomic and he's just shrinking forever. I'm one of those guys who can just sit up on YouTube until 3 a.m. and just watch theories about things like the universe and things about molecular sizes. That kind of stuff is insane to me. So just being in that mindset, it's how far can you shrink? What happens? Oh my God, that was an atom. He's smaller than an atom. Where does he go? Is it just colors? What's going on? Lights reflecting. That's really, really cool. Every time I see that scene, I just get lost. It's what would happen? I love that.
It makes me feel claustrophobic.
Yeah.
I guess is the best way for me to describe it. When I see that, I'm like, oh gosh, that is the ultimate nightmare right there. You're
Crazy.
done. Oh,
I do love the idea of the quantum realm though. So John, kind of speaking to what you said too, that's the concept of a whole new universe that just it hasn't been accessed as far as they know, right? It's so cool to think about how they just access it to travel through time. We see an Endgame and stuff like that. It's cool. It's so cool. The concept of it's awesome. I think we're gonna see more of it, obviously, with Ant-Man and the Wasp 3 or Quantumania. So that would be good.
So this is the first movie after Ultron, right? We say it kind of switches things up after we get an Avengers team-up movie. Funny enough, of course, the first movie after the brutal intensity that is Infinity War is Ant-Man and the Wasp. So just kind of ironic that those two follow each other. To speak to your previous point just a moment ago, little did we know, a lot from this movie kind of establishes a little bit of a foundation for what we see in Endgame, as well as what we're going to see in the Phase 4 multiverse stuff. At least I think. Kind of, it's funny to think back and think that this movie was way more important even than it felt originally, I guess.
I agree. I don't think anybody could have predicted that the Pym particles and that the quantum realm were going to be the solution to beat Thanos at the end of this 23 arc movie. It blew my mind when I first started seeing the trailers and we all started connecting the dots. It's oh wait, it's going to be time travel. Those suits look awfully similar to the Ant-Man suit. What? Yeah, really cool.
Hank Pym refers to the Iron Man suit as cute. I think that's a funny little tidbit.
Yeah.
I love that they reference the Avengers facility as one of Howard Stark's old
warehouses.
facilities.
Yeah.
Warehouses.
Yes. Good call. That's a nice little tie-in. Seeing Anthony Mackie there. So their little fight, right? At that point, I can't imagine that I ever would have thought that we'd get a series pretty much surrounding that character.
Yeah.
And here we are in 2021, and we did, and it was freaking awesome. Oh, and by the way, he's Captain America.
And I sadly was not part of the episode you guys recorded for the series, but my biggest takeaway from that, real quick, not to go off on a tangent, but I never thought I'd be interested in Bucky and Sam's history, background, where they're going, what they're going to be. But goddamn, that series, it totally turned me around for sure. Like it really did. And like he's Cap. Like we never thought we'd see him be Cap, and here we are. So it was awesome for sure to see him in those minor roles before that. And I would have never thought he'd be where he is now in the MCU. You know what I mean?
So back looking at from the filter of back then, it's like, oh cool, they got like a B-list MCU person to make an appearance in this. But now it's like, oh my god, look at how far he's come, man. Like you said, we see him as Cap. They did their job. Like if you watch that series, you get it and you're on board. He is Captain America now. So to watch this film with that new filter, it's like, oh man, no longer is he a B tier guy that they're sneaking in there. How cool that they got him. It's now it's like, man, he's come a long way. This is awesome.
I know we talked about it a little bit on our last episode, but I knew, truly whatever was going to happen in this Bucky or the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series, that Sam was going to be Captain America. We know that pretty much from the end of Endgame, right? And man, Anthony Mackie, just a wonderful performance in that series, which we could talk about forever. If you guys keep seeing me look up at the ceiling, it's because there's a spider that has made its journey basically.
Oh,
so wrong show, man.
No.
Come back from
it looks like you need Ant-Man to help.
No, that's a great segue. I'm gonna hop in and talk about one of my favorite moments. And I'm sorry if I'm taking one of your bullet points away, but you're talking spiders, man.
Because I'm gonna be like,
yeah, we're talking spiders. So in that final Luis spiel at the end where he's talking about how the Avengers are looking for him, I figured it's one of your notes on there, but you said spider, so I had to hop right into it. We had heard rumblings that possibly Spider-Man could be making an appearance in the very next movie in this franchise, which is Captain America: Civil War. So to get that at the end, I'm actually a big fan of the actress who plays the journalist, Anna Akana. She's talking through all this stuff. She's like, oh, you got to be more specific. We've got guys that fly. We've got guys that crawl, that swing, guys that crawl on walls. And I remember the pop in the theater where everyone's like, swing, crawl on walls. What? Sony still owns them. We didn't it was so good to just plant that seed way before we've even gotten a trailer for Civil War. I'm pretty sure at that point. So man, that was awesome.
So maybe my timeline is fuzzy here, but obviously that was a bullet point for me. You know me too well, John. I thought very close to then, maybe like a month or two before, we had gotten word that it was happening, that Spider-Man was allowed to cross over. They reached an agreement. I could be wrong on this, but I'll just tell you as I remember it. So as I remember it, I thought that maybe that happened just prior to the time Ant-Man comes out.
You could be right.
Civil War comes out in 2016, but the first trailer comes out December 2016.
Yeah.
So Spider-Man probably would have already been a part of it, I would think. But I remember, if I remember it correctly, seeing that and being like, oh my god!
Yeah,
they just say what they said.
So even
freaking out.
Even if you're right about that, I remember being in so even if that story came after or before, I remember being so I will believe it when I see it mode. Like
sure.
I could see all the articles and everything like that. Like until I see or hear Spider-Man reference in the MCU. Sure, they made an agreement. I don't even know if I trust half of the reports that I see. Like kind of when we were going through all the the most recent will Spider-Man be in the MCU anymore? I didn't believe half of that stuff until I saw like Disney actually tweet that kind of stuff out. So even if we were there and we had that report, I was definitely like, I still need to see it before it's real for me. And this was the first time he was referenced, so it was still huge.
Even if it never happened, like let's say they had not reached that agreement or not gotten Spider-Man into Civil War and this happened, it doesn't matter. You can still tease that. Like that's still an okay thing.
It was there.
Oh my god. So when I see it now, I really, really appreciate it because it's like, holy moly, what a time that was. Think back to social media and everyone just freaking out. All right, our friend has almost made it to the corner, so I think I'm okay.
So if you guys don't mind real quick, I have one this is way before any of this in the movie when Darren had met up with the remnants of S.H.I.E.L.D. and a couple of other people that were looking to buy the product, right? Buy the PIM particles or their army, the mini army. So I went down a rabbit hole a couple weeks ago, and I call it the 10 ring rabbit hole. So within all of the Iron Man movies, within this movie, we see signs of Shang-Chi's 10 Rings organization. So like the organization that the Mandarin is a part of, right? One of the guys in the room, for across his presentation, had a 10 Rings tattoo on his neck. So he was a part of the 10 Rings. Also, and I'm sure you guys have probably seen this or noticed it yourself. In the second Iron Man, the Ten Rings gave okay, what is this? Ivan? What's the villain's name? Whiplash. Whiplash is the comic book name, but
Yep. Sorry.
they provided him the documents to get to the US. So like the Ten Rings have been around for a very long time. They're a main villain for Iron Man. They're the organization as a whole. But to see like to look back in all of these movies, and when I literally look for this stuff now. So like when I go and do a rewatch, I look for the little remnants of like a guy crawling, or just to see that the Ten Rings have been around since Iron Man 1. Like the people that kidnapped Iron Man were part of the Ten Rings as well. So like Shang-Chi is coming, and I think it's going to be awesome. Like just to see how they really connected the dots throughout the the past 12 plus years. So
yeah, and I think
I'm excited.
I'm not fully there like you. Like I'm not scoping that stuff out, but I've seen it. I've seen a lot of that stuff tweeted, and I've seen it referenced, and especially because so many people thought in Iron Man 2 it was burned so easily. So many people thought like, oh, this is what you're gonna do with the Ten Rings, and I even forget who the fake the Mandarin. Yep, the Mandarin, or was that was Iron Man 2, right?
Iron Man 3.
Okay, yeah. So people, everyone thought like, all right, Iron Man 3 is when they burned it. Like, this is how you're going to use that character. Like, all right, we're done with the Ten Rings. That was like a fake Mandarin. Like, people were bummed about it. So to see like those things continue to be planted, people who.
So you remember the fake Mandarin was approached with the guy with the silenced gun or whatever?
Yeah.
That was a Ten Rings member. So like the Ten Rings are everywhere.
I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see how much of that we see in Shang-Chi.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they do like little callbacks to the scenes we've seen so far with scenes we've seen. That's kind of throughout the MCU. I'm so I like it. It makes me more excited for Shang-Chi. Like I don't know the character, I don't know the organization as a whole. Ten Rings. I do know that they're kind of a villain more towards Iron Man, but obviously Shang-Chi is associated, and it's going to be awesome. So dude, I'm a big rabbit hole guy. I got to stop doing that.
Same.
Oh, that's great.
You said who? You said someone had a tattoo. What scene was that in?
The presentation that Cross gave for the army of all the Hornets. Yeah, one of the guys has a Ten Rings tattoo on the side of his neck. Yeah, I did not notice that myself. I would have never noticed that myself. But down my rabbit hole, I noticed that, and then I started digging more into where else have they been.
I live for that stuff. In the MCU, but in Star Wars too, like that. Any little bit like that, like yes. I could write an essay on it. It's
absolutely
insane.
Absolutely.
We were just really quick talking about Iron Man 2 and 3, but I mean you can see there, you can't really see it. Iron Man 3 confirmed better than Iron Man 2. It's what it is.
I just put it on screen for the people at home to confirm that yes, Iron Man 3 is factually better according to this piece of paper in front of me. It seems like it's factually better than Iron Man 2.
Yeah, you can't really argue with the facts.
It's in print.
Last few bullet points here. Luis says, the system, love that so much.
I'm in a system.
The system. That whole sequence is great.
Good.
I could say, I'll let you let me. Just fantastic. That's a scene you got to watch over and over again. Oh yes. Okay, so Kurt is the name of the third guy we haven't talked about in the trio.
Yeah.
That is not Dave and Louise.
Yep.
He is superstitious. So the reason I say that, it's funny because in this one he says, this is the work of gypsies. It's kind of funny. In Ant-Man and the Wasp, my favorite thing ever is I reference all the time on Geekiverse shows and have made a nickname for John is Baba Yaga. So in Ant-Man and the Wasp, when he goes Baba Yaga, it's funny that to a degree his superstitious beliefs were already here.
Yeah.
I just never thought about it. This is something I don't think I noticed until watching it last night. And I know it's obvious. But Luis, as he's a security guard or dressed as a security guard, is whistling.
Yes.
It's a small world.
How
did I not notice that?
Everything he does while he's the security guard was almost going to be that moment. The fact that literally the scene before he's actually a security guard, he's like, should I have like a shtick? Should I whistle or something like that? And Scott's like, no whistling. hard cut, he's whistling It's a Small World. So funny, like perfect for that character. And also when he knocks that dude out, he's like, that's what I thought. And then Hope walks by, he's like, I'm sorry, it's a very unfortunate casualty in a very serious mission. Like that's where he shines in this movie, is that whole security guard scene.
How about also him taking that guy out of the building?
Oh yeah,
before it blows.
Yeah,
like that's so quick, but he has a contract.
I gotta get that guy. Yeah.
So good. Luis there, it's so funny because A Small World is obviously not only funny because it's Ant-Man, right?
Yeah.
But because it's a Disney property. Like, man, they never fail to intertwine those things.
Little stuff.
And I love all that. I'm here for all of it. That's why we have shows like this.
Right.
At the end when John, you referenced one of your favorite moments, or that moment was when they're using the discs, right, to enlarge and shrink, and they're battling each other. Thomas the Tank Engine was basically my first
so good
Geekiverse thing before I knew that I would ever be in the Geekiverse. Like, it was Thomas the Tank Engine and then Star Wars. Like, that was it. I loved Thomas so much. When I was little, I had maybe some of you can relate to this if you're listening. We started with the metallic trains, and then when I was maybe like 5 or 6, the wooden versions of those where you can piece them together came out. If you're in Buffalo, Hobby Lobby was not Hobby Lobby. Niagara Hobby was a very famous store that you would go to and get your trains. Just for me, that was like a little bit of a nostalgic tie-in, I guess. But yeah, Thomas the Tank Engine for the win. It's on Netflix, by the way. There are newer versions of Thomas on Netflix. Which
of course, you would know that.
Of course, I've tried to have my daughter start there, but she's not having it. It's okay.
You can still watch. You can still watch. You don't need to wait.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters. What's real quick, small tangent. My daughter's first Star Wars experience. I always envision being her maybe 5 or 6 years old, and then we finally start to watch either the Clone Wars or the movies. On Disney Plus, there's something called Lego Star Wars: The Freemaker Adventures. It's actually pretty damn funny, but it stars the Freemakers, which are a family, and their old Republic era droid named Roger, which is a battle droid. So anytime my daughter wants to watch Star Wars, she says, "Daddy, Roger."
Oh, that's amazing.
Character, yes. I kind of love it, but at the same time, I'm like, her first character love is Roger the battle droid. We've got some questions here. So
that's good.
Anyway, speaking of Star Wars, I didn't even plan this. I believe there are 2 Star Wars references here, whether it was intentional or not. But again, they are Disney properties, right? And so this is just ahead of Force Awakens coming out. Darren's lasers are absolutely ripped from AT-ATs, or AT-ATs, however you say it.
Oh, the way they fire.
It's the same sound.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Listen to it. Identical. Kind of interesting, don't you think?
I've never thought of that.
Listen to it. You won't be able to unhear it. They're identical. Empire Strikes Back. Hank shows a diagram on one of his bits of technology earlier in the movie. And it is absolutely the same, updated, but the same as when in A New Hope we see the briefing on the Death Star and how to blow it up. Where if you fire the proton torpedo down the chain and it explodes. I can't remember. This is like maybe a half hour into the movie at most. Can't unsee it. I wasn't even going to bring it up until at the end of the movie, we hear the lasers and they're the AT-ATs. So I think I see what you're doing there, Disney. It's all good. 2 last things. So actually 1, because we already covered the crawling, or we got a guy who crawls up the walls. It's a line that our family says all the time because it's such a stupid, funny thing, but back it up.
Back it up.
Back it up. Back it up. Back it up. It's so good. And I feel like that scene was only meant to be like maybe a few seconds, but they kept the camera rolling and it was just hysterical.
Yeah.
So, just a guess, but that feels like Michael Pena to me, where he's like, back
oh,
up,
yes.
A little bit of improv there. Yep.
Yes.
100%.
I talk throughout the episode of Paul Rudd's comedic timing, but man, Michael there just
steals the show. Steals the show.
Guys, I had a lot of notes there. I didn't think I was going to have a lot of notes for Ant-Man, but I did. Well, that's where I'm at. I don't know if you guys have anything to add that I didn't cover that was on your mind. You tell me.
In my eyes, we covered it all, man. And we talked a lot about this movie. It's just so fun. It's just so fun.
It is so much fun.
I'm
so happy to be back doing this. I can't even tell you.
I can't wait to see where this is going to rank. I'm very curious to see what we're coming up with here.
Here's the thing. So before we typically have gotten to our rankings, I have an idea of where it's going. That specific movie.
Yeah.
I'm just going to kind of go with the wind here and see what happens. I just know my answer will probably be whatever John's is. That's kind of how it works out.
It is. We've only disagreed a few times. I think we had one disagreement where you would have kept going with Iron Man 3. You would have put it ahead of 1, and I didn't do that.
Watch the video clip. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, go to our YouTube and search they recast Rashawn, because what you're describing right there, John, is what happened.
That is what happened.
I would keep going with Iron Man 3, but
I wasn't having it.
That's okay. We found a happy medium. So, John, I'm going to give it to you just if you want to recap what the rankings look like, and then we'll
let's get into it. I've got it up here. I did manage to sneak the Incredible Hulk back onto the list. Unfortunately, we do have to have that listed because it was one of the movies we watched. So here we are. Yeah, we got number 1, Guardians of the Galaxy, 2, The Avengers, 3, Age of Ultron, 4, Winter Soldier, 5, Iron Man, 6, Iron Man 3, 7, Iron Man 2, 8, Captain America, First Avenger, 9, Thor, 10, Dark World, 11, Incredible Hulk. So, I mean, where do we start? So I'm gonna start low. I'm gonna say let's just start, and I think we can all probably agree we can start with it right above Thor. Let's work our way up. Does anybody think that Thor's a better movie?
No.
Okay. So we start with it above Thor and behind Captain America, the First Avenger, which I'm voting right now. I bump it above First Avenger. Where are you guys? Josiah,
Yeah.
You? John?
Yeah.
You as well? Unanimous?
Above first, yep.
Okay, so above the First Avenger. So now we've got Iron Man 2. Man, we know how Josiah and I feel about these Iron Man movies. To me, it's very tough, even though I know we're going to have to. It's very tough to even get these out of order, because to me, like, the Iron Man trilogy is just very good, and it's just like its own little trilogy. But you can't just stick 3 movies there on the list and just not move them.
Trilogy.
It's tough. Yes. I put it above Iron Man 2. I think that this is a much tighter movie. I love Iron Man. I love all the Iron Man movies, but I would say Ant-Man is a more cohesive story and a better movie than Iron Man 2. What do you guys think?
And just to go forward, I mean, I think it's better than Iron Man 3 as well. So
whoa,
definitely 2. Definitely
whoa,
2.
Whoa, hot shot. One at a time.
Definitely. So okay, let's not do that then. But Iron Man 2 for sure. Yes.
Well, okay. So it already hops Iron Man 2 because John and I both think so. But I want to hear what Josiah has to say.
Dude, I struggle with Ant-Man because when it came out, I felt like I would have had it at the top third of the list. Oh my gosh. I'm so stressed right now. Not just because that spider's gone. I'm gonna. Obviously it's a moot point, but I'm gonna leave it.
You wouldn't say it's above Iron Man 2.
It is all up to you guys to progress Ant-Man.
It's up to me.
Further on the list. I'm done.
It's up to me. Would I put Ant-Man above Iron Man 3, which I know John already would?
I absolutely would.
John, think of Rashawn. We know he's gonna be watching.
This has nothing to do with Rashawn, but I wouldn't. I love Iron Man 3. I think that Iron Man 3 at this point in this MCU reviewing, I think Iron Man 3 is the most underrated movie we've seen so far. I think it gets way too much hate. It's such a fun movie. It's more Iron Man, and I really like the themes in that film. So I wouldn't put it above Iron Man 3. We're gonna get so much hate for this. We're going to get torn apart as we always do. And that's why I love doing this show. I love listening to very heavily opinionated Marvel people because we're the same way, but we just, we just don't always agree.
You know what, John, it's fine. The difference is we're right. So
the difference is we are right. So John, you would have kept going. John, just to know, would you have gone ahead of Iron Man with Ant-Man? No, you would have had it.
Not above Iron Man. Iron Man is too nostalgic for me.
This makes me feel good. I really was a little, for the first time, nervous when we got into this because I didn't know where I would have it sit. I wouldn't be super pissed if we got it up to like Iron Man level or above.
Yeah.
Like I would not be legitimately pissed if we got it above Iron Man. But for me, I think all three of those Iron Man movies are great. I'm saying it right now. All three of those Iron Man movies are great. We're in the MCU, man. You can't go wrong. Minus Dark World and Incredible Hulk. You just can't go wrong, right? Like it's fine. It's fine. So that's where I'm at. But
Yeah.
I like this. I feel good with this.
All right. So we've got a new top 12. Ant-Man slots in at number 7, right below Iron Man 3 and right above Iron Man 2. So that's you know what? I'm almost just relieved that we've finally broken up the Iron Man movies, and I don't feel the pressure to be the first to be in there breaking them up again, because it's gonna get dicey, man. We're gonna get into some really, really tough conversations soon. Like I start to think about some of these films coming up where it's like, man, this is gonna be fun. I love ranking this stuff. This is so good.
Dude, I have to throw up because like the list after this is just insane.
So good. Like we have a lot of good movies coming.
I mean, we're starting Phase 4. So Ant-Man is the final movie in Phase 3. We're getting into Phase 4.
Right.
We are officially ramping up to Infinity War and Endgame. Like that is we are in the Endgame now, sorta. I mean, we got some movies left. We got some movies left, but we're heading into Phase 4.
So, no, end of Phase 2, going into 3. Right? You're saying with
Oh yeah. I'm a whole phase behind here. Yeah.
I know. We knew what you meant.
Yeah.
Just for clarification. So, John, I kind of can't believe we finished Phase 2.
I know. Like we're literally halfway there, and our next Avengers movie is Avengers Endgame. Like we're getting there, man.
So, Ant-Man to me represents a bit of a turning point, because after that, our next episode, we get Captain America: Civil War, which I freaking love, by the way. We get Doctor Strange. We get Guardians 2. We get Spider-Man in the MCU. We get freaking Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Infinity War. Are you kidding me? I have goosebumps right now. We're about to go on a run.
We are. Just a quick about next week. I have not rewatched Civil War in a very long time because of the show. When we were doing the show, obviously we're still doing it, but when we committed to the show, we were doing once a week, and I'm like, all right, I'm not sneaking in any other rewatches. And we had a little bit of a hiatus, and I did rewatch Endgame and Infinity War back to back. I did do that because I felt like it was far enough down the list where it's like, all right, we still have weeks to go before we get back there. But I'm like, I'm not rewatching Civil War. That once we get back into this, once we start the second half of these movies, that's going to be quick. And I probably haven't seen Civil War in over a year, if not longer. So I am so excited to get back into Civil War, because I purposely was like, that one I'm waiting for. That one's so close. So I'm waiting.
I don't want to spoil the rankings. I love Civil War. Love it. It is so good for so many reasons. And you know what? Same. We talked a lot about Ant-Man, more than I thought we would.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a lot about Civil War. There's a lot of ramifications. Yes. There's a lot of characters that are very prominent in that movie. There's a lot of insane underlying themes. So let me tell you, everybody, what a way to come back here with Ant-Man. This is the appetizer. Wait for the full course with Civil War. Buckle up. It's going to be quite a ride next week or whenever we get to this episode. But fellas, what a time! As I've said throughout the Geekiverse's existence, what a time to be a geek. We've got the MCU, we've got new content on Disney Plus every month. We've got a lot on the Star Wars pipeline, video games galore. It's just a wonderful time to be here talking about the things we're passionate about. We're gonna wrap things up here for this episode of the MCU Reviewed. We want your opinion though. Can't wait to hear what you think about how this fits in the scope of our rankings, especially in the middle of all the Iron Man movies. John and I, noted Iron Man trilogy lovers, would love to hear where you would rank it. Give us your rankings on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Comment in any of those social media profiles for us. You can watch this episode, of course, at youtube.com/thegeekiverse. Listen to it on any major podcasting streaming network or right at our website, thegeekiverse.com. Our sponsor for the show, again, Fanteestic. That's FANTEESTIC. 26shirts.com/Fanteestic. New shirts every 2 weeks, and proceeds go to benefit charities, individuals in need, or families in need. wonderful partner there with Del Reed and 26 Shirts. We can't wait to have Del back on the show. I'm hoping he comes back with Civil War because I think he's going to have a lot of things to say. But if not, we'll get him for Doctor Strange. I'm confident. John, any closing thoughts on Ant-Man at all that we missed, or what can we can look forward to next week with the Geekiverse? I'm
just so excited to be back in the swing of things and trying to get one movie a week. This rewatch is so much fun, and it's the pattern, it's the frequency, but it's also the restraint. And like we just watched Ant-Man, and I'm like, man, Civil War is next. I just want to pop it on. I want to watch it tomorrow night. Like I can't wait. But the restraint there is like I want to get that in right before we talk about it. So the schedule is so good. Just to be back in this rewatch mode, I'm so excited to be back.
I could not say it any better, my friends. It's nice to have that schedule to almost hold you accountable to watching it, but to have that discipline. Oh, our spider friend is back.
Beautiful.
Son of a so watch along with us. That's the point of this. We want this community watch along. That's why we started this during the early days of the pandemic to have something to do. But we're optimistically getting out of the pandemic. Continue this journey with us. We think it's going to be a blast, especially as we get back to theaters here. JT, anything we missed on Ant-Man? What we can look forward to for Civil War, getting back to movie theaters, you name it. Hit us with your thoughts.
Nothing on Ant-Man. I think we pretty much went through everything. I'm just excited to do this. Like I told you guys when I first joined up, I love Marvel. I love Star Wars. Those are my two favorite things. So just to be able to watch the movies I watch all the time anyway and talk about them. But there's one thing. Hold on.
Oh no.
What? Wait. What?
There's one thing. Hold on. You guys hear that?
Oh yeah, we heard them all.
we're bringing Ultron up above Avengers. Baby.
What?
I want that vote out there. I want that vote out there.
Whoa!
I want that. Ultron is one of. I honestly, I have it. I'm not gonna give that. We'll go cross that road when it gets there. I have it above Avengers 1. Ultron. I'm going to snap it out.
John, you're. Man,
JT, I did not see that coming. You legitimately have me surprised with how we're ending the show.
Me too.
A lot of times there's a little bit of almost feigned surprise. This is totally genuine.
100%. I am a huge fan of Ultron. As a villain, as a movie.
Same.
It's not going to stay number 2, just based off of what I know is coming, but I want it above Avengers, and I'm okay with that being the case. So,
but do you think that the fans will support it? Do you think you'll win this?
I've started to notice a lot in Marvel Reddit and Marvel just Twitter speaking. A lot of people are like, the nostalgia is always going to be there for the first Avengers movie, but they're starting to see it's not the best, and I think I'll get enough votes.
Wow,
the snap's coming.
I applaud the confidence because it's something that I'm close with you. I'm close there on you. Like I every time I watch Age of Ultron, I love that movie even more. And that
we just talked about that. I think with the WandaVision
for sure. And that is my movie. Like that is my background movie, man. Like I love Age of Ultron. The action in that, it's like every time I turn my head, something cool is happening, or it's like, all right, turn my head. Oh, this scene's awesome. Like Ultron is that movie for me. So man, it's. Ooh, I'm not mad at it.
Just thinking about how it builds up the tension between Tony and Cap, that you start to see that little Civil War tension, which we're getting right into Civil War next week. I 100% have it above Avengers 1. The nostalgia is great. Like the first team up, love it, but
you played the crowd. You're going to play the crowd beautifully here, just like I thought you did, even though we had the wrong rankings. Going back to the last snap, I wouldn't be pissed. I could absolutely make an argument.
I think I might vote for it, even though I'm part of the team that put Avengers above Ultron.
When we had the mishap and I snapped Winter Soldier above. If you guys remember, like I mentioned that Ultron's going to go above that, like that, because we thought we hadn't watched it yet. I already in my mind had already picked Ultron to go above that, above Cap and Winter Soldier. So. Ultron's up there, man. Every time I watch it, I feel like I fall more in love with it.
Our 3 movies currently: Guardians, Avengers, Ultron, and then Winter Soldier. Yep. I think definitively, still in my mind, those 3 movies are where they need to be.
Those are the top 4 right now. Yeah,
in the top 4. I would never disagree with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like as we tried to say that we were going to move up Winter Soldier, I would have said No, like I'm just not there. I'm like underhyped when it comes to that movie, but maybe overhyped for Civil War, as we'll find out.
Yeah.
But I absolutely can get behind, and I think it's one of the earliest movies I reviewed for the Geekiverse. Like we're talking early 2015, I think. And I said that it like kind of captured. It didn't capture the initial magic of seeing the Avengers together for the first time, but it kind of came close. And I don't know, Ultron and Iron Man 3, for whatever reason, I always feel like those movies are crapped on unnecessarily. And so, JT, I think I support you. You know what? I may vote for it. We'll see.
All right.
Like
Get that vote in. People, please get that vote in.
So, John, tell us what it looks like now.
Yeah, so right at once this video is posted, and I'm gonna try to post it tonight after we finish recording and I get this edited. Once this video is posted, it's gonna be accompanied by a tweet on the Geekiverse Twitter. So we are at _Geekiverse on Twitter, and it's gonna be a poll. It's gonna run for 3 days, and it's gonna simply say, which is the better movie? You've got two options. You've got the Avengers. You've got Avengers: Age of Ultron. We're tossing a couple of hashtags to try to get some random people to find the poll. But John, try to find your favorite social media influencers that are Age of Ultron stands, and try to get one of them to help you out here. Because as much as I can get behind it, and as much as I could see myself getting there, because I think they're both great, and I really do love Age of Ultron more and more every time I watch it. I still think that the majority, the vast majority of MCU viewers isn't going to support that. But I'm excited.
I think there's an off chance that you do find the right crowd, whether that's Reddit or a portion on Twitter, and you get behind it and it takes fire. But I kind of do agree with John that I think, not to stereotype, but I think comic book fans or old school comic book nerds will maybe be like, you're crazy. So you got to find the right crowd here. Maybe I'm wrong. Damn, that's super exciting.
And you know, I feel like with Winter Soldier, without Ultron being there, my goal was to get it to number one. There's no external, like, extra goal here. Like I see Ultron always being above Avengers, no matter, you know, whether those drop down to 6-7 or 5-6, I don't care.
Sure.
But I need to see Ultron above that.
All right. I like it. I
vote.
respect it.
Vote, people, vote.
Get out and vote. Am I right? Cannot wait to see what that looks like. Gosh, that's super exciting. Well, we wrapped up everything we possibly could want there. What a nice little almost cliffhanger there with JT. Again, I'm Josiah Leroy with John Fick and JT, our new friend here at the Geekiverse. Super excited to join up for this series again with 26 shirts and Fantastic. Hopefully we'll see you guys next week for one of my favorite movies, again, not to spoil anything, in the entire MCU, Captain America Civil War. Make sure you watch the movie so you can keep along with us, whether it's on YouTube or on any of your favorite podcasting networks. And let us know how right we are or how wrong we are with what we did with Ant-Man. Again, for John and JT, I'm Josiah. We'll catch you guys soon. Have a wonderful evening.